Hey guys, so I want to give you a few updates. First off, this is my first training session back off of my deload week. This is going to be my second hypertrophy block in my macro cycle. But I wanted to basically talk about an important concept that I get asked about a lot, and that is basically how do I select and progress weights during a training cycle? Which is a very, very good question, and I think that it's absolutely something that needs to be discussed. So first off, I think that the biggest reason why it matters so much is because we want our training to be challenging enough in order to facilitate overload. The principle of overload, getting stronger over time towards a specific goal. But we also don't want it to be too challenging too early so that you don't overreach early or are consistently missing lifts. Um, because the reality is that some overload is always going to be better than zero overload. The worst thing that you can do is go all out maximum week one on all of your lifts, and then that doesn't really set you up for long-term success. Um, so how I recommend that most people do this is if you're constructing a training cycle, you should first off plan an accumulation to deload paradigm. So basically, I want to have 4 weeks of hard training and then a 1 week and then 1 week of deload. So basically, that will kind of let you know how hard to push and when to push. So using this as an example, and this is kind of what I do, just because I found that that 4-to-1 paradigm of accumulation of hard training, overload training to deload works well to me. For me, I will start my week one at RPE 7, and then increase that through to RPE 10, and then that's my overreaching week, and then I will deload. Uh, and then usually, I think most important thing with that is once you've established that, then you know exactly how hard you need to push throughout the training cycle. The most important week of your training cycle is week one because week one does set you up for that success. What I do basically with myself and with clients is I will use my best lift from last training cycle for my overreaching week, kind of plug that into an estimated 1 rep max calculator, and then use that, and then use a percentage of that using an RPE percentage based chart, which you can just Google on the internet. And then what I will do is I will use that number as a starting point, but I will always use RPE as the key, as like the king. So basically, if I put into I should do 70% of my 1 rep max, and that will theoretically give me an RPE 7 at whatever arbitrary rep range I'm trying to do. I'll come in and load that in, and then kind of just be honest with myself about how hard that was. If it was correct, then I will stick with that, but I'm willing to adjust that because it's just super, super, super important to to make sure that you choose the correct weight. Because again, we want to have overload throughout the training cycle. It doesn't matter where you start as much as where you end up. And if you have a well-designed training program and a well-designed plan, um, you shouldn't worry too much about where you're starting because everything is building up to that last week of your training or whatever big event that you have. So basically, if let's say that I've hit the correct weight, I have established that in week one. Okay, how do I progress from there? Usually, what I'll do is I will again because I increase RPE week to week to week because the reason why that happens is twofold. One, kind of naturally, because of overload, we generate fatigue throughout the mesocycle. And so what that means is that it will get harder and harder and harder, and we'll have accumulated fatigue build up and build up and build up throughout the mesocycle until we deload. Um, so that one does play into having a lower to higher RPE. Second off, more practical, besides the scientific that you guys can actually apply, is I found that 5 to 10 pound jumps on lifts um, or just increasing by 1 rep a week on my sets, as long as I'm staying within that RPE, typically accomplishes overload throughout the mesocycle how I want within the RPE that I want to overload in. So I also think that it's important to just remember that you can always adjust as you go. If you do undershoot 1 week, that's much less consequential than overshooting, because if you went all out maximum, there's nothing beyond like all out maximum. You're not really setting yourself up for success. So just keep the end goal in mind. Make sure that you are selecting weights smartly. You know, I'm assuming that most of my audience is going to be, and people that are listening to this video are going to be more experienced people who've had some past training. Use that as a guide. Like I said again, look at your previous training, what you did, and then set a goal, a reasonable goal to set. I want to increase 5 to 10 pounds on my bench press. I want to increase 10 to 20 pounds on my squat and deadlift this mesocycle within a specific rep range, and then use that as the guide, and pick weights that will, and jumps weekly that will theoretically get you there. So yeah, I hope that this video was helpful. If you guys do have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. If you guys like the video, make sure to like the video, and comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next one.